Hello and welcome to the news in English from Nai Radio and Television Station. Here are the main contents of today's news. In the morning of March the 25th, Đồng Nai Provincial People's Committee has held a meeting with FDI enterprises in 2016. Đồng Nai currently has over 1150 valid FDI projects from 40 countries and territories in the world, with a total investment of nearly $25 billion. In 2015, the registered foreign investment capital in Đồng Nai province reached $2.5 billion, doubling the plan of increasing by 37% compared to the year 2014. Disbursement reached $1.3 billion. FDI enterprises have contributed $847 million to the national budget and created jobs for over 30,000 people, which helps increase the total number of workers in FDI enterprises to over 460,000. After the first 3 months in 2016, Đồng Nai province has attracted nearly $500 million, 3.5 times as much as that in the same period last year, and making Đồng Nai one of the leading provinces in attracting investment in the whole country. Until now, Đồng Nai province has nearly 1,560 projects granted investment certificates with a total registered capital of nearly $29 billion, including nearly 1,200 valid projects with a total registered capital of nearly $24 billion. Speaking at the meeting, Vice Chairman of the Provincial People's Committee Trần Văn Vĩnh appreciated the contribution of FDI enterprises to the development of Đồng Nai province over the past year. 2016 opens up many good signals, especially when many FDI free trade agreements and the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement TPP are in force. With the motto, "The government accompanies the businesses," Đồng Nai province will continue strong administrative reforms, always listen and timely remove difficulties and obstacles for enterprises to develop their business. Ministry of Planning and Investment said the Consumer Price Index CPI in March 2016 rose by 0.57% in comparison with last month. This is the highest number in the past 3 months. Within 11 major groups of goods and services, there are 2 groups having the increase in CPI. They include medicines and medical services, education. There are 9 groups of goods and services with a decreased CPI. They include transportation, drinks and tobacco, food and dining services, with a decrease of 0.48%. Other goods and services fell 0.23%. Textile and garment, headwear, footwear decreased by 0.17%. Telecommunication decreased by 0.1%. Culture, leisure and tourism decreased by 0.1%. Housing and construction materials fell 0.01%. Household goods and equipment decreased by 0.01%. According to the consumption rule, the CPI in March annually tends to decrease due to the falling in consumers' demand after the Lunar New Year. However, the increase in CPI in March this year is mainly due to the increase in price of medical services and educational services. Basically, the prices of some goods and services that are controlled by the state increase according to the roadmap, especially the prices of medical and educational services. The CPI in March rose quite high in comparison with the previous month. However, if compared to December 2015, the increase is just 0.99%. With this increase, the operating and controlling space of Vietnam's inflation this year is still quite large. This year, inflation is aimed to be actively operated at the level of below 5%. Over the past 2 days in Geneva, Switzerland, the UN Human Rights Council has conducted the final discussion session, adopted 40 resolutions, decisions, and precedent statements at the 31st Human Rights Council regular session. Vietnam delegation was led by Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Nguyễn Trung Thành, head of the Vietnam Permanent Mission to the UN. In this session, the Human Rights Council adopted by consensus 26 drafts related to various issues that are of high interest to the international community, such as the implementation of economic, cultural, social rights, labor rights, the right to food, the right to culture and cultural diversity, strengthening international cooperation on human rights, children's rights, and information technology, religious freedom and tolerance, or about human rights aspects in many global issues that are attracting special attention of the international community, such as migration, terrorism, humanitarian crisis. During his visit to Russia on March the 24th, U.S. Secretary John Kerry has had a meeting with host President Vladimir Putin to discuss the situation in Syria and Ukraine. The two leaders appreciated the Russian-U.S. cooperation, through which brings in some success in the Syrian issues. President Putin welcomed the visit of Secretary Kerry and said that the contacts between Russia and the U.S. have brought the opportunity to address important issues. The Russian leader said Moscow and Washington have found similarities to promote settlement of bilateral and international issues. We in general have been able to achieve the similarities and based on that to resolve bilateral issues. We understand that what we have achieved in Syria is only due to the stance of the U.S. leader, President Obama. I hope his visit will allow us to narrow the gap in the two-side stances to resolve the crisis in Syria and Ukraine. For his part, U.S. Secretary Kerry expressed thanks for President Putin taking time for the meeting. Mr. Kerry revealed the cooperation of Russia and the U.S. in the Syrian issue has brought serious results and improved the situation of the inhabitants in this Middle Eastern country. That's all for the news in English for today. Thanks for joining us and goodbye.